I believe we are up and live.
We
Awesome.
are. Good morning.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to She's Velvet Steel. First, we want to give a shout out to Reagan in Huntington Beach, California today. She couldn't be with us because she was Wi-Fi challenged. But she's with us in heart, and I know you guys love Reagan, so shout out to Reagan. Love you, girl. And today, I'm just going to open up in a quick prayer and then tell you where we're headed. So, Jesus, let your name be renowned today through us. Let us even sort of fade to black just a bit, God, that you would get glory for this time. We just appreciate that we get to be a part, and just special blessing on all that join us today or watch later or share to a friend. And thank you for the privilege. In your name, Jesus, amen.
Amen.
Is that Ollie upstairs?
It is. Can you hear him? Can you hear him, Jen? He's like, I'm missing out on the party.
And that's Jamie's dog, Ollie, at the top of the stairs squealing. And when I left him, he was trying to claw through the gate. So he loves us. So, so today we're talking about the idea of restoking dreams and restoking our passions. And we're just going to kind of layer in over each other. I'm actually going to start out my part today. I'm going to start with a story and some practicals in the idea of restoking our passions and dreams. So something that's become really important in my life is to sort of see my dreams as clay in my hands. I tend to be, I know you'll be shocked by this, but I tend to be a person of passion and angst, and I want to run hard and fast in the lane that God has given me. Jamie and Jen are nodding. Reagan in her kitchen is nodding too, because they feel the same way. Well, what comes with that when you're somebody that has great dreams and passion can be like this angst of, well, that didn't go the way that I wanted. Or the timing isn't my timing. Come on. And so about 15 years ago, the Lord gave us a little house here in Billings. And there was lots of struggle and trial there. I had a gal involved in the occult across the street. I learned a lot about prayer and fasting. That's for another day. We ended up becoming friends, and I gave her a baby shower. But it was through much toil and many sleepless nights. But in that time, I said to the Lord out loud, you gave me the clay of this little house and this woman and this ministry, and I am going to work that clay as much as I possibly can. And it gave me great freedom to not look past what God was creating in me then, what God was teaching me then. And so my first practical to you today in your dreams and restoking those dreams and passions is sometimes it's better to look at just what God has dropped onto your plate or your lap. And that solves a lot of problems, because sometimes if you look too far ahead, even though you might be a visionary, you can forget that what God has given you right there is most important. My friend Marnie, my close friend Marnie, she's a rock star singer, and we hope to bring her to you at some point. But about a year ago, she was telling me a story. She's very velvet. She's very tender, has this beautiful song like an angel. And she just was struggling with some personality conflicts in her dreams with people. And at one point I said, Marn, let me just say to you something very freeing. And I want to say that to everybody in our community today. Sometimes the seeming rejection of people in the area of our dreams, their rejection is God's protection. And I don't mean that they're bad folks because they didn't accept our dream or get it or even want to jump on board. They're not bad folks. It's just that they're not the puzzle piece that God has intended. So Marnie, what you and what all of us sometimes think as rejection, we can be offended, we're really at risk of being offended, is God's protection, because he has that better puzzle piece. And what that does, when we see seeming rejection as God's loving hand for them and for us, it means that we can, that clay that we brought to them, and they're like, I don't really, what is that exactly? I don't really like it. Could you cut it in half, maybe in about 16 pieces, and I'll take 1/16. instead of walking away offended by that, we can say, okay, so this is not meant to be at this time. And that happens every week in our dreams and our passions, doesn't it, to some degree? It happens, just even our kids not taking our passions and our dreams serious. They're like, that's kind of stupid. Okay, so I can either walk away an offended parent. I mean, it dwindles down into all of our relationships, right? And two things that God spoke to me. The parable of the wheat and tares, it's in Matthew 13. I'm not going to teach that today, but it's in Matthew 13, 24 to 30. When I did teach that a few years ago, something so profound that I want to share with you about dreams and passions today is that God spoke to my heart and just said, in that parable, the farmer goes to sleep. And when he goes to sleep, the next day, wheat and tares both grow up. Now, there is a total end times teaching there, tons of context that I'm not going to hit. I'm just going to, like skipping rocks, I'm going to take one rock out of that parable today. They're so rich. And the rock is going to be this. We're supposed to go to bed. We're supposed to plant and do some watering. But it is totally in God's hand to grow our dreams and passions. And when we wake up, God has been growing things, so to speak. The counterfeit is there, the tares, but again, that's for another day. But I just want you to zero in on, you need to go to sleep sometimes and rest and give your dreams and your passions over to God. I need to do that and trust that the one that gave me those dreams, because what the Bible says is that when we delight in him, then we are right in the center of his will. Right? And that even means that that dream doesn't come to pass, which I know is hard to hear. But there's this necessary constant reshaping of our dreams that we get to do. And these are my last thoughts for you in terms of practical. In 1 Peter, Peter talks about a living hope. And that's in 1 Peter 1, 3-5 for you to later possibly look at. Now, that living hope Peter's talking about is actually being born again, coming to Jesus, choosing him, and having salvation and an eternity with the Father, with Jesus. So again, I'm going to skip rocks right now, and I'm going to pull something out of that living hope that is also very practical. And it's this, guys. When you and I remember with our dreams and our passions that the responsibility with those is this way between us and God. He thought us up. He gave us the color of our eyes. He put us in this generation. The gift that you have to give, the dream that you feel like you're creating, yes, you're creating it because we're made in his image, made in his likeness. So we get to be co-creators in that way, not the creator, but co-creators. He made us creative, right? But those dreams and those passions go this way, and they ought not go this way. And when we remember, and I'll tell you what I mean by that we have this living hope, Peter tells us, that can never fade and never be taken from us. We can't even take it, right? It can never be taken from us. Then we can backfill, bring it back here to today, to present day, where I have huge dreams and passions. I want to go to the ends of the earth and tell everybody about Jesus. I know you're shocked by that. But I do. I want to go to the ends of the earth. I want to hug every woman that's ever been created and tell her who she is in Jesus. That's kind of a big dream. My poor husband. What I'm saying is, it's not my husband's job. It's not Jamie and Jen and Reagan's job. It's not my boss's job. It's not my pastor's job. It is only here. And so when you bring your clay to people, your passions and your dreams, and Jamie will pull that apart for us a bit, know that it's not their job. Because sometimes we have to restoke a dream because right there we let it fall because we thought that human being was supposed to do something. And so I'm out. Attitude, offense, saying stuff about people, all that stuff we can do. But if we keep it in our living hope, what God has for us I love all those verses in First Peter because there's a lot of present tense words, a lot of present tense verbs. Like, yes, it's for later, but it's for right now too. I don't know who I'm pointing at, but they're over there. Just kidding. Over there's heaven. So right there. My point is that living hope is so entwined in our dreams and passions, and like childlike faith says, yes, I want to go to the ends of the earth, God, but it is not people's job. My husband is not meant to be my God. My friends are not meant to be my God. My pastor is not equipped to be my God. They have their own lanes. Now, sometimes I bring my clay, my passions, and it's picked up, and someone says, this is a pretty good idea. Awesome, thumbs up all around. But if not, hug those people and love those people, and don't be offended. Go back to your time with Jesus, get your walk on, get your drive on, and say, I thought that was going to go different, but I'm okay because I trust you, because my living hope is now, and it can't be tarnished no matter what a person does with my dreams and my passions. That makes sense. So James, just picking up on that thread, what clarity have you learned in those areas?
Yeah, gosh, I love this topic. I love talking about passion when it relates to purpose. So just for clarity's sake, we can have passions that are part of our inner wiring that we love to take part of and enjoy and do. And I believe that there's a whole separate topic we could talk about that, and not allowing those passions to be our God. Right? Or to satisfy our soul in the ways that Jesus should be. But I also believe that he put them there for us to enjoy, and that it's a part of our inner workings that does bring some strength to our bones. And so that's another topic, but I wanted to clarify the passions we're talking about is within the dreams and purposes for which we were created. Mm-hmm. I love this topic. This is one of my favorite topics to discuss. And it's one of the hardest lessons that I've had to walk out, probably why I like it to discuss it, maybe to prevent future pain for someone else. When Cece talked about putting our dreams and our passions and even giftings and all those things that I say download, that God downloads into you, and then you just light up and you put that into somebody else's hand. Let's say that they take it and they go, great idea, let's run with it. And then what happens if they shut it down?
Right.
Happened to me. 14 years. Yeah. 14 years. I put my heart and and if you know me, if I am committed to something or someone, you'd have to cut off my hands for me to let go of you. You'd have to lock me up for me to not chase you down. You don't just get to say to me, we're no longer friends. Like, that doesn't happen in my world. I'm like, right. You have to have a good dissertation as to why that is. And the same for a dream. It was very, very difficult for me to not be able to pursue what I had been pursuing because of someone else's choice, right? Because of someone else's decision. And so when my 14-year dream came to the end, it was ashes. Could I have picked it back up? Sure. But I always question, I think it's good to question whether God has intended for us to pick it back up. Because there's times when he'd say, keep running. And then there's times where he says, new direction. Right. And that's where I was at, is I had to go, is this a pick it back up and fight for it in another arena? Or is it a lay it down? I got a new direction for you. And so it was a wrestling thing. Cece said, that when things get, when somebody says no, or you get moved on to different places and different spaces, you go, I'm okay. I had to go, I'm not okay. Right. This was the thing you gave me, right? Which I wrote about this and we'll share tomorrow. But I had confused my passion, my dream, and my calling with my current assignment. Yeah. So when the assignment ended, I thought that my calling, purpose, passion, and dream had ended as well. So my argument with God wasn't so much about the assignment. It was like, why'd you make me like this if you just wanted to end it? Why did you make me this focused, driven, 14-year run the same path girl if it just was all going to end now? Like, I have no vision, none. Mm-hmm. So that's a big story, but I'll kind of fast forward to this. I remember sitting on my bedroom floor having this discussion with Eric. And if you knew how opposite we were in our ways of thinking, it's a little comical, because half the time I have these deep discussions with him and he nods and he's an awesome listener. But then kind of by the end of it, he's like, gosh, you think a lot. You think really hard, Jamie. Anyway, in that moment, and often he doesn't try to interject answers, because sometimes I don't necessarily need that. Sometimes I have too much answers for myself. I don't need more solutions. So one time that he did interject. So when he does speak up with something, it's usually something that I'll remember. And I'm sitting on my bedroom floor. And in our home right now upstairs, if you're sitting in my bedroom, you can look down the hall. And then if you look straight to the hall, it's the wall to go to outside. And I'm sitting down and I told him, I said, I feel like I'm at this place where God has clearly said, you're not to pick up the old thing. I started picking up the old thing and working for it in a new arena. Right. And I did. And I worked my butt off to get back what I had. Right. But I felt like he's like, I mean, good job. Go you. Yeah. Glad you worked really hard. But I actually want something totally different. And so I started to dream up a little something different called She's Velvet Steel. And it wasn't called She's Velvet Steel at the time. But I'm sitting on my bedroom floor telling Eric, I don't really know that I want to pursue it as hard as I did in the last 14 years of the direction that God had me. I don't really know that I am strong enough for that. Right. I don't know that I am mature enough for that. Right. I feel like I have a tendency to look at, like Cece was saying, to look at this and then all of a sudden disconnect that it was God's dream in the first place. So he kind of has the shifting and turn left, turn right dynamic. So I didn't trust myself pretty much. And I questioned whether I had the faith or the trust in God to help me through any disappointments that might come our way. Because the reality with dreams and passions, while it's incredibly exciting, and there's something in us that when we get to co-create with God, that we feel alive in a way that we don't doing other things. So it's an amazing opportunity, but there's also some massive disappointment with that. And I didn't trust myself. I'm sitting at my floor looking down my hallway and Eric goes, he stands up. I'm like, oh, what's going on? Backpedals himself down the hallway and he stands at that wall that goes to my outside and I'm looking straight at him now at the end of the hallway. He goes, what if, Jamie, that first dream that he gave you was me? Like I'm the target. And he gave you that clarity and that target and that vision so that you would know exactly what steps to take, how to develop as a person, what things to grow in, what skills to refine, what direction to put your heart, your time, your money, your resources into, right? So you get to me or you get close to me, but then God goes, but look to the left. There's a whole living room over there. Like that wasn't my end game. And so then my husband moves he moves himself over to the next window, which turns left. He goes, so he had you focused with clarity, because how could you have ran at the pace that you ran unless you had specific clear steps to take? Right. So he gave you clarity. I had myself fixed on what that clarity and outcome would look like, thinking it was his end game. So when the end game ended, I'm like, I'm not finished yet. And God's like, me either. I'm not finished yet. Surprise. I've got something even better. And I question whether I could believe it was even better, because I so loved the dream he gave me before. So I was sad. And I grieved that because I loved that dream. And I felt so excited about that dream. But I felt like God going, but do you trust me, Jamie, that I might know you better than you know yourself? Do you trust me that the next dream that you and I partner in that might bring you satisfaction in a way you've not experienced yet, even though you loved before? Can you trust me with that? And so it was a question of his character. What do I believe about his character? And so Eric's illustration of like, well, okay, now turn to the left, look at all this other stuff you didn't even have the vision for because it was blocked by a wall. I couldn't have shown you what I was doing in the living room because you couldn't have seen it from your bedroom. From where I was at in my character and my maturity and my skill set and all of that, I did not have the ability to see that vision yet. But as I moved forward toward the first target, then I could, and he gave me the next one. And so yes, there was grieving and yes, there was disappointment. But I think now, out of that massive disappointment and grieving season, I think what solidified in me is that my dream is just a partial fraction of God's dream, and he can be trusted, because I reached out to Jen and said, what do you think? And she took, like Cece said, took the clay and was like, love it. Been thinking about things myself about this, this is what I get excited about and lit up to do. So we move into it, and then Reagan jumps in and Cece jumps in, and they're like, love it, right. and we go now. So I'm moving toward that new space, right?
Yeah,
and I'm learning and growing and dreaming and getting clarity. And these girls are doing the same. They're getting clarity in what I could call download. It happens for me in the shower, just gets them on some showers. Jen gets them in her workouts, wherever we are to get those downloads. God is giving us pieces of that dream. But what I believe is it's a fraction of what God really has in store. So we grow and we go. And then he'll go, hey, check this out. Look over there. You know, so it may not be exactly as we pictured, but I think I'm praying and hope, and I'm always surrendering that. I think I'm at a place to go, it's okay if it doesn't turn out like I originally thought.
Yeah.
Because I think he's got something better,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
So Jen, you and I, this topic alone, you and I have talked about so many times.
Oh yeah.
So I know you got some nuggets. What you got?
Oh yeah. Well, and we're coming up on probably needing to close it up, but I will just, listening to both of you, I loved, Cece, that responsibility of us just staying focused on God. I love that because I feel like, wow, we're so influenced by friends. We're so influenced by family. We're so influenced by the world. We're so influenced by other people's dreams. Like, oh, that's her dream. Maybe that should be my dream. Or, oh, that's, kind of like at the beginning when you are in your 20s and you're like, get married, have kids, go to college, get a degree, get a job, you're in that moment when we're in our 20s and maybe later 30s, everyone's different, where you're like, what are my dreams? Who am I?
Yeah.
And I feel like before you can even process those or put your fingertips on them, you have to know who you are.
Yeah.
And you have to know who you are in God's. I just feel like you've got to get your identity straight before you're going to know what your dreams are, because otherwise you're going to be like, okay, that's my dream. And then someone comes by, you're in your lane, and someone comes by and you're like, wait a minute, that dream looks better. I'm going to go in her lane.
So good.
And you're like, oh wait, I want that one.
Yeah.
And before you know it, you're just like, what do I want? What do I want? I remember I wanted to be a mama since I was 5 years old. I mean, I literally used to stuff my shirt with clothes and act like I was pregnant. And I just have always wanted to be a mama. And I will say there was a day, and I love being a mom. I love, God blessed me with 5 babies, and it's the biggest joy, biggest growth.
Yeah.
But I remember having one day where I'm like, this was my dream. Like I'm picking up poop and cleaning throw up and, and it made me realize, we get so fixated on what we think a dream should look like. And Jamie, that kind of goes along with what you were saying, where he puts that in front of you to go after it. But I feel like who we become and who we allow him to shape us into is way more important than arriving at that dream. Because we get to that dream, and a lot of times we might have put way too many eggs in that basket. We might have just put that dream on a pedestal, almost in an idolized format. And so you get there and you're like, oh, this is it. Not quite what I thought it was going to be. But when we're surrendered to him and just staying in that vertical relationship, and like you were saying, Jamie and Cece, of just like with She's Velvet Steel, like allowing him to mold that and shape it. Yeah. I feel like who we become along the way is so important. And then when you get there, you're like, okay, this is good, but this wasn't the end game. This is just a stepping stone to something way better, maybe way different. But I can't not address when we get to some dreams that were, our trust was completely shattered. people kind of stole it. It wasn't what we thought it was going to be. People.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
we're all flawed, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like sometimes we can allow what God had intended for us. We can allow the world to steal it from us.
Yeah.
And growing, if you went after something and you had people saying, don't do it. This is a really stupid example, but I remember really wanting to do triathlons. And I jumped in. And sometimes when you're chasing your dream, you are going to look crazy to people. They're not going to understand it.
That's okay.
And that's okay. And that's, it's as long as you and God are good, it does not matter what anybody else thinks. And chasing after your dream does take a little bit of obsessiveness, as long as God is at the center, but I just remember going, okay, I'm going to try this triathlon. Well, training for a triathlon is a lot of work.
Yeah.
Things do get out of balance. You are a little bit wacky in those 6 months or whatever. But I remember a neighbor of mine took me aside, and I had heard it through the grapevine that she had thought this. And then I allowed her to tell me in person that I was obsessed and that I was at a very unhealthy obsession with this goal. And it hurt. And I allowed that. I went on to continue and finish, but I allowed that to sneak and marinate in my head way longer than
right.
Because then you start to, what does the enemy want? He stands as the accuser.
Yeah.
He wants you to doubt your dreams. He wants you to doubt your efforts that you put into it. He wants you to doubt that this is what God has planned for you. He wants you to doubt that you could ever even achieve it.
Yeah.
And so every corner, as you're chasing a dream, he's going to stand, he's going to be your accuser. He's going to have something in the corner waiting to try to trip you up. So I just feel like as you're chasing your dreams and as you're looking for those things that, you feel like God has intended for you, keep your blinders on with just you and God.
And
don't give up on that dream just because someone else has said something negative that they'll never be able to it's not their dream. Like you were saying at the beginning, Cece, it's not, doesn't mean that they're bad. Doesn't mean that it's just not, like you said, Cece, that piece to the puzzle.
Yeah.
And a lot of times God uses that. Like, how bad do you want this, girl?
Yeah. Right.
So I just feel like with all of those thoughts that we had today, the underlying thing is, man, he has got to be the focus.
Yeah.
Got to be the focus, because if the dream completely dies, like Jamie said, maybe it is him saying, look, I don't want you to pick that back up. That is not what I had intended. I'll never forget when Reagan sent out, it was a message from Bethel, and I forget, maybe it was, I forget who the pastor was. Okay. Maybe you guys will remember, but he painted a picture for when you get to heaven and God, there's an accountant that shows up and he's like, I did my best with the numbers and you gave me this love for accounting and things like that. And God's like, I wanted you to be a missionary. I never intended for you to be an accountant. And then another guy comes up and he's like, I was a pastor and I brought thousands to you and and God was like, I actually intended you to be an artist. I never intended for you to be a pastor. And just knowing like our dreams are going to be different than everybody else's. And we're talking vocation right now, but our dreams are not going to look the same as everyone else's. So keeping our eyes focused on what God is telling us for us individually is so important. Because you're going to have, you're going to try different things. And as we try different things, we're going to learn so much more about ourselves. And we're going to be able to get more clarity about who God created us to be. So I love this topic, you guys.
I do too.
We could have another one on this. Any thoughts, any closing thoughts after some of the different things that we've shared, you guys, that you want to?
Yeah, I would just say the idol part. I'll just say that, Jen. I just want to re-highlight what you said, that dream or that passion can be raised to idol status. And if that's a new term for you, it just means an idol is anything that you would put before your love and your devotion to God. And a great way to check that is to say, do I want this more than I want intimacy and time with the Lord? Really simple question to ask, And then just only secondly, with your triathlon, you could have taken in what that gal said, and because this is good, Jen, and I think that's what you're saying, you can say, okay, I can hear that, and then I can leave it at the altar of God and not leave it here, right? Because people are always going to have commentary on what we're up to. That is just a part of living in community. So we take in the commentary and we say, awesome, thanks, and then now I'm going to leave that with God and stay here. That's the only thing I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh gosh. I was just going to say too, on that note, on the flip side of that, when you have trusted people, like we are all together walking with you, you invite them to speak that truth into your life, and you can go, okay, maybe there is some truth to that. Am I out of balance here?
Exactly.
But I think it's that trusted relationship.
It is trusted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think you said it too, Jen. And if you haven't read the book H3 Leadership by Brad Lomenick, he originally started the Catalyst movement, if you're familiar with that, which is raising up young leaders. Andy Stanley now runs that. But H3 Leadership was a book that I read in my middle of one dream and the other. When I was in the middle, that was a book that I read that I referred to when I said I confused my assignment with my calling or my purpose and my passions. I confused that. But something else that I knew needed to happen, and he talked about in the front, because Brad Lomenick took a sabbatical because of the same thing. This is common for doers. You know, let me know in the comments if you are a doer like myself. I can dream, but I don't like hanging out in the dream too long, because I'm like, let's do it. Let's go.
Get her done.
Like, let's quit talking about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm tired of dreaming. Let's walk, you know, or run. I prefer running, but God slows down the runner. But
power walk.
Here's why. Yeah, power walk. I'm like, I know I'm supposed to keep your pace, but I really want to. And that's why he's like, go down. And here's why, a big reason why I felt like there were so many things. He had new things for me, but the idea of becoming that you mentioned, Jen, what we become is more important than what I will ever do for God. I needed that to be solidified in me. And Stephen Furtick once described this as a shipwreck. That sometimes when you talk about idols, Cece, that our dream becomes this ship that floats everything for us. And God will allow this ship to be wrecked so that we don't put our security, our certainty, our hope, our satisfaction, all of that in that ship.
Identity.
And so it goes back to identity. Yes. So Brad Lomenick says identity first, calling and purpose second, assignment third. It's our culture likes to determine our assignment. I'm going to become an accountant, and that makes me valuable, meaningful, and worthwhile. I am an accountant. Right. That's our identity. So when we are no longer an accountant, who are you? I don't know who I am. And we have this crisis, right? And so I love how he put, and you said it, identity first. You know, who are you apart from anything that you do, apart from any of your roles or assignments? Because even our roles as a mom, we will forever be a mom because we gave birth. Right. But they will move on and have their life. We won't have the same role in their life anymore.
That's right.
So those of us who have chosen to be moms, or maybe you didn't choose to be mom, maybe God's like, I need you to be mom. You know what I'm saying? Or not, wherever you're at, this role may not be forever. And so, the identity first. If you're going, I don't know exactly what the call or purpose is for my life, I'd say, who do you know that you are? You know? And then the passions, what gets you excited? Like clearly all three of us, we could talk about purpose. Why? Because we want to tell you about yours. You know, we want to encourage you. And we want to be lighting you up and pushing you on. So that's our passion, right? Any of those topics that can light you up. And it could be in another direction, like, ooh, that injustice just gets me, right? Sex trafficking, ooh, it just gets me. That could be a passion. Right? You could cry about, I used to watch Biggest Loser and cry. Why? Because it just pained me to go, oh my gosh, they are in a prison. Like, I just need them to know their weight did not define them. You know, like I just wanted to know them and work with them. And so it was a passion of mine. And so I would say though, knowing who you are first, really, and Levi Lusko is doing this series right now with Fresh Life. You can watch it online. He's talking about the I am statements in the book of John. He said, I am 7 different things in the book of John, and he's covering one each weekend. You know who God is?
Don't miss it. It's real good.
He says, Know more of who you are.
That's right.
You're going to be in tune to your little passions and big passions.
Yeah.
And you'll see some giftings that he's given you. And then it becomes more like, oh, that assignment, this is really in line. Right. And you can take assignments, and then we can set down assignments.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and then that's when those things we give things the freedom to be what they are. Yeah. And that is, not our everything, not fulfilling everything. And then you can enjoy those dreams. You can enjoy, I mean, how many times do we feel guilty about chasing after something? Like, I feel guilty. But if you have your alignment with your heart, with God's heart, then those things are free to be what they are. And then you're free to enjoy those things. So it's so good, you guys. In fact, if this is a subject that you guys that are watching, we've got some comments on here. It's so good to see you guys watching it. Charlene says, I'm rewatching this and taking notes. I'm a doer, but struggle finishing unless it's fun. I can kind of resonate with that. Chasing a dream is hard, man. It is hard work, and it's monotonous too. So that's a whole nother thing. But if this is something that resonates with you, we are going to be, next week, we're going to be kind of recapping this whole, everything we talked about in February with living loved, because we can't, in a healthy way, chase our dreams if we are not living under his grace.
So true.
Because then we will be obsessed with it, and we will take it into our own hands, and we will try to squeeze a blessing out before we're ready to receive it. And that's disgusting. It's not true. We've all had it, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to be talking about, we're going to recap just what it looks like to be living loved, and to live with grace, and to give grace, and this whole restoking our dreams and passions. Guys, honestly, if this is something that really hits you, it does start with identity, and it does start with something that we've talked about in the past on one of our webinars, and that's finding your strong moments, finding those things that do light you up if you're at that ground zero and you're not quite sure. And we do have something coming, a webinar coming, of doing more of what matters. And I think that lines up perfectly with what we're talking about today. So be on the lookout for that. Join us next week, you guys, and let's continue the conversation. Let us know what your dreams and passions are.
Please come on.
Yeah, I love seeing what turns other people on. I'm baffled by some things that turn people on. Like when Jamie mentioned she likes to decorate. It's very odd to me. I want to know more about that. It's very odd. So I love to hear about other people's passions and things that get them excited. And that's how we grow, you guys. We don't grow from the three of us just talking to you.
No.
We grow when we get to hear where you're at, and we get to be authentic and transparent with where we're all at on this journey.
Yeah.
And there's not a bad passion. There's not a wrong passion. Well, yes, there's probably some wrong passions, but
that's for another topic. That's for another day. Well, we're not going to open that Pandora's box.
So you guys, we love you, and just know we are praying for you throughout this entire week. And if you need an urgent prayer request, please message us in the She's Velvet Steel inbox, and we will make sure we get you covered and surround you. We might even be able to have an opportunity to call you and pray with you over the phone too. So awesome. Have an amazing week. It is going to turn into March this week.
Yeah.
So we will see you guys next month, if that is not crazy. Okay. Love you guys.
Bye. Bye.